And good morning. It's 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Breaking this morning, new reporting about President Trump's secret flight out of Turkey, boarding Air Force One, hiding in a catering truck, and taking another plane after a threat from Iran. The new questions about security. A desperate search in Colombia after a huge 7.4 earthquake rocked that country. Hundreds feared dead. Our correspondent is live near the epicenter. Critical primary elections today with Democrats hoping to win the governor's seat in battleground Wisconsin. We're live talking to voters. And accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione back in court for a final hearing before his state trial begins. The latest from our reporter in the courtroom. And good to be with you this busy Tuesday. A lot to get to this morning. We begin with breaking news from the White House this morning. A new report on an elaborate ruse to apparently conceal President Trump's travel during an overseas trip last month. The Washington Post first reporting the president boarded the former Air Force One as a decoy. Then he deplaned using an airport catering truck and was secreted onto a military jet to get him out of Turkey during the NATO summit last month. Joining us now is NBC News senior White House reporter Gabe Gutierrez. This play-by-play is amazing. The president was supposed to be on the former Air Force One for, quote, old time's sake, as he put it. He posted about the newly gifted Air Force One being sent to the UK to give our military members there a chance to see it. The whole time, reporters thought they were flying with the president. Walk us through how this all played out.
You know, Christine, these details really seem to be out of a movie. And amid the threat of assassination by Iran, the Washington Post, as you mentioned, reports that the president boarded that decoy plane last month only to be whisked away to a nearby aircraft using a catering truck.
This morning, a reported secret mission to briefly hide President Trump. According to the Washington Post, last month, the president's team taking extraordinary measures to move him, with threats from Iran growing the day after the U.S. resumed strikes there.
They want to take out the U.S. leader, me.
On July 8th, following a NATO summit in Turkey, President Trump was seen boarding Air Force One, an airport catering truck captured on video next to the plane. According to the Post, the elevated vehicle was used to secretly shuttle the president to a smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A, to be flown out of Turkey. Reporters and other White House staff boarded the original Air Force One, which became a decoy. The Post cites material it reviewed, a U.S. official familiar with the operation, and another person with knowledge of the president's travel. According to the Post, the maneuver meant that Trump's actual location was concealed from the American public and many senior U.S. officials for hours. Eventually, the president landed in England, where he apparently reboarded the original plane before exiting it again and getting into the newer Air Force One jet gifted by Qatar. Reporters asking why they'd been told to lower their window shades on the original flight. The president saying it was probably due to security. And he was asked about threats from Iran.
I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go. Right?
What was their specific
so perhaps someday you want to change professions.
When pressed about the newly reported details, the White House did not address them directly, though notably did not dispute them. Instead, adding in a written statement, there are many enemies of America who have their sights on him, and we use every tool at our disposal to address those threats. Democrats now raising concerns.
What's really at stake here is the safety of the president when he travels.
Gabe, what's the latest reporting on the security of this new gifted Air Force One at this point?
Well, Christine, look, there's still a lot of questions about the future of that Qatari jet. Again, to be clear, that Qatari jet was used on the final leg of this trip once the president went back to England on, as we now know, according to the Washington Post, that military aircraft, not the old Air Force One. So, about the newest jet, this Qatari jet that was donated, that the president has previously said and his administration has said was amounted to a $400 million gift. It was briefly retrofitted for security upgrades. It's unclear exactly how much that cost, so the one Army official has previously testified that it was less than $400 million. As for the final plans, it's unclear when it will finish being retrofitted, because the administration had said that as of now, it's out of service and that the president will use the old Air Force One plane. And then there's a question of what will eventually happen to it. The president had previously said that it would be given to his presidential library after he leaves office. NBC reporting has now said that those plans remain in flux. Some of the president's family members say that it might not go to that presidential library. So still a lot of unanswered questions at this point about the future of the jet and also the future of the security upgrades, especially given this latest reporting by the Post. Christine.
And a play-by-play that sounds like a movie script: 3 planes, a catering truck, and a president with a very significant threat from Iran. All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much. It's primary day, and this morning voters in 6 states are getting ready to head to the polls. And while races are playing out across the country, 2 key states are in the spotlight. In Wisconsin, progressives are looking to extend a string of primary wins this year, with Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong the front-runner for governor. And in South Carolina, Darlene Graham is looking to succeed her late brother, Senator Lindsey Graham, squaring off in a crowded Republican field. Joining us from South Carolina, NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles, and in Wisconsin, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster. Shaquille, let me start with you. Progressives have racked up some big wins this primary season already, and now that momentum is being tested in Wisconsin. A Francesca Hong win would add to that progressive challenge of the Democratic establishment, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And, you and I were talking last week in Michigan when you saw the progressive candidate there win. Here in Wisconsin, Francesca Hong is not just a progressive candidate, but she's a proud Democratic socialist, which, let's be clear here, among Democratic voters here in Wisconsin, that's a popular position to have. But the concern among party leaders, among key Democratic leaders, is that when you look at polling among the general electorate, Republicans and Democrats, being a Democratic socialist makes it harder for you, they believe, to win statewide. So Hong has been trying to close, talking about her policies: universal child care, expanding Medicaid, increasing taxes on the rich. But in these closing days, she's also had to answer for some comments in the past that even she has called nonsensical. Things like abolishing the Senate, canceling Thanksgiving. That's something that her opponent has kind of used to also poke at her, saying that she's not ready for the limelight. She's coming into Election Day with a lead in the polls, at least. Let's see what voters ultimately end up doing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, she doesn't have the endorsement of other leading national progressives. And the current governor, Tony Evers, he has endorsed her opponent, David Crowley.
That's absolutely right. We heard both Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman AOC asked about it on Sunday. Are you endorsing in this race? And they say, despite her being a Democratic socialist, they're focused on federal races and national races, not statewide races. There's been mixed endorsements that they've had in that regard. But when you talk about her opponent, David Crowley, he paints himself as a true executive. He says the Democratic Party is one of a big tent and that he will bring everyone into the fold. I want you to listen to a little bit of our conversation yesterday on the campaign trail.
Well, I have fought my entire life not to be labeled, not to be placed in a box. And so it gets frustrating when you've been helping communities your entire life, get access to success. And so for me, yes, it is frustrating. I've never tried to protect the establishment. This has always been about lifting up people who have never had their voices be heard.
Despite what he's saying, he's being viewed as the establishment-backed candidate, the candidate who has the best shot at stopping Hong from winning tonight.
Ryan, let's go to you in South Carolina. Darlene Graham running for her late brother's seat. It's a crowded Republican field. She has President Trump's endorsement. Is that enough to help her avoid a runoff?
It doesn't seem like it, Christine. In fact, we're expecting to see Darlene Graham cast her ballot in this primary race in this church behind me here in the next hour. And what we're hearing from voters on the ground here is that they are a little skeptical of the idea that she should just ascend into her brother's seat simply because of that familial connection. And you're right, there is an enormous field here, one that includes a former governor, one that includes 2 sitting members of the House of Representatives. And the voters that we're talking to are interested in all of these candidates. So they don't think that Darlene Graham is just going to automatically move into this nomination. Listen to what they said.
I've met Darlene. She's a great person. I think she was a great pick to finish out Lindsey's term. But with the lack of experience in government, I don't think she's certainly not my pick to fill Lindsey's seat.
I don't vote for someone unless I know what they are and what they're about. She has no track record. Can't vote for someone who's ever run a race. You ever bet on a horse that's a long shot? You don't want to do that.
It does seem like the strategy right now, though, Christine, is just to get to that runoff. It'll happen in 2 weeks. It'll just be two candidates. And the Graham camp believes that if she can get to that next stage, having the endorsement of President Trump, having the name ID and the connection to her late brother should be enough to get her the GOP nomination, which would put her on a fast track to having the seat for the next 6 years.
She does have the name recognition. She's never held an elective office, though. You've heard some of those potential voters say that. So what is her closing argument to voters?
Her closing argument is that she is prepared to listen to the needs of the average, everyday South Carolinian. And what's interesting is that even though she's certainly running on her brother's legacy, she's also presented herself as being a different kind of candidate. She's talked about her brother's heavy focus on national security issues. She says that she wants to be more focused on those domestic kitchen table issues that everyday voters here in South Carolina are concerned with. That may be a difficult ask given the legacy that Lindsey Graham leaves behind, but she's got a very short window in which to make that case. And right now, a lot of the voters that we talk to remain skeptical. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out here tonight. Christine.
All right, gentlemen, long night for you. Ryan Nobles, Shaq Brewster, thank you so much. We're also following breaking news in Colombia. Rescuers are urgently searching for survivors after a deadly 7.4 magnitude earthquake shook the western part of the country yesterday morning. Authorities say 169 people were killed in the quake. That number is expected to rise. Nearly 1,000 others were hurt. You can see here just how powerful this earthquake was. This entire building collapsing in just seconds. Local officials say an estimated 5,000 homes are now either damaged or destroyed. NBC News correspondent George Solis is on the ground for us in Colombia.
This morning, new video showing the moment of the earthquake in Colombia, with rescuers desperately digging through mountains of rubble to find those trapped inside buildings. The deadly and powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake taking many by surprise when it struck Monday morning.
It was probably the most terrified I've ever been in my life.
In Medellin, Laura Alvarez recording this harrowing scene of her home shaking violently.
I could just see everything shaking.
Authorities say more than 130 people have died. Passengers at this airport holding pillars bracing during the moment of impact. One man screaming as the shaking intensifies. Outside this hospital in Cali, part of the building collapsing onto an ambulance as patients scramble for safety. This woman narrowly escaping falling concrete. The epicenter of the quake, San Jose de Palma, nearly 70 miles away in Pereira. People frantically running for cover. Across the region, churches badly damaged, including this one where the cross fell from its spire. In Medellin, Sam Simpson says she ran for her life with her husband and their pets.
I am shaking so hard right now. An earthquake just hit.
Recording this video moments after they felt their high-rise start to tremble.
The building was swaying so much. It really felt like it was going to crack.
She's worried if more aftershocks are on the way.
You know, it's really hard. It's this surreal moment where I think everyone's a little bit on edge about, is this going to happen again?
All right, George Solis, thank you for that. A lot of work still to do there in Colombia. All right, in New York City this morning, accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione appearing inside a Manhattan courtroom. Today could be Mangione's last public appearance before jury selection begins in his state murder case next month. He's also facing a separate federal case with jury selection set to begin there in January. Now, since Mangione last appeared in court, his lawyers withdrew plans to argue he was experiencing an extreme emotional disturbance when prosecutors say he shot and killed United United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson back in 2024. The 28-year-old has pleaded not guilty in both cases. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo from outside the courthouse. And Stephen, today's pretrial hearing, I guess it's the last opportunity for both sides to finalize the details of his upcoming trial. What are they looking to nail down?
Yeah, now that they've gotten all of the evidence settled, what the judge will and will not allow to be used in court, it's really focused on that September 8th trial date, which will start with jury selection. We've heard the judge this morning tell each side that they've handed over their versions of the jury questionnaire, and he's asking them to agree on those questions. And if they can't agree, he will make the final decision what questions are allowed. And legal experts are saying jury selection could be tough because it'll be hard to find people who have not heard something about this case since it happened. And we also know that anything to do with this case makes headlines, including Mangione's appearance, which today we're told he's wearing a white shirt and a suit without a tie, and he has a little bit of a beard, Christine.
He's facing two trials here, one at the state level, Stephen, and the other federal. Mangione himself has argued that that is double jeopardy. I guess, what do legal experts have to say about that?
Yeah, the big thing about that, and something that we've heard from the defense since the beginning of these hearings, is the claim of double jeopardy. That claim has not really gone anywhere, the idea that you can't be tried for the same crime twice. However, we know with this federal trial set to get underway in January, the prosecutors on that federal case are going to get quite a preview of not only the defense strategy, but how each witness will perform on the stand. And that could be very helpful to them as they plan their strategy in response to that. So one of the many things we're looking at here.
And tell us about this back and forth between the defense and prosecution about media access during the trial. What's at the heart of that battle?
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating as well. And it's something the judge took care of as soon as the hearing began today. The defense team had wanted more access for the media as well as an overflow room for the public so they can be able to see this as well. The judge saying that he will agree to that, and there is plenty of room. Previously, we know the prosecution was not all in for that much attention, that much access from the public, raising concerns about supporters maybe interfering with witnesses or the jury. The judge disagreeing with that, and he's going to allow them, Christine.
All right, Stephen Romo, thank you so much. And more today on that major recall linked to a nationwide salmonella outbreak. Retailers are pulling Taylor Farms products off the shelves in 26 states following their recall linked to jalapenos. As food safety concerns grow, the FDA is now out with new guidelines to tighten its oversight on what's going into your food. Joining us now from our L.A. bureau, NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson. Steve, what's the latest on the new recall this morning?
Christine, this latest recall is 20 items distributed in 26 states in some of the nation's biggest retail stores across the country, leading to some real recall fatigue. Take a look.
Americans are growing weary of the rising number of recalls related to those stomach-churning Cyclospora and Salmonella outbreaks.
I don't buy any bagged lettuce, things like that.
Grocery shoppers forced to exercise more caution when buying fruit, vegetables, and now some meats. Taylor Fresh Foods, the U.S. commercial distributor initially linked by the USDA with the Cyclospora outbreak in lettuce, now issuing a voluntary recall for finished products containing jalapenos, including dips, salsa, and guacamole. The peppers, traced to growers in Mexico, have been distributed to major grocery stores in at least 26 states. Additionally, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service issued a public health alert for nearly 20 meat and poultry products containing jalapenos potentially contaminated with salmonella. Taylor Fresh Foods says it is not aware of any reported illnesses linked to its products containing jalapenos. Foodborne illness is nothing new. The CDC estimating that each year 48 million people, or 1 out of every 7 people, get sick from tainted food, including nearly 3,000 fatalities. Now, on the heels of this latest recall, government officials announcing Monday plans to institute new guidelines concerning ultra-processed foods and food additives.
The FDA does not even have a complete picture of what is entering the food supply, and neither, of course, do the American people.
Rutgers microbiologist Don Schaffner is not sure that'll help.
Providing adequate funding to FDA so they can do their jobs to try to keep our food supply safe. That's the way forward, not legislating about ultra-processed foods or food additives.
The multiple recalls hitting businesses hard. Taco Bell and Chipotle both saw a dip in sales after pulling tainted lettuce and jalapenos from their menus. The popular salad chain Sweetgreen, which has not been linked to any outbreaks, says they expect sales to slump because customers are being extra cautious.
Hey, Steve, what can shoppers do to avoid purchasing anything that could be a health risk?
So, Christine, the only real way to know is to go to the websites of these health departments. CDC, FDA, they all have a full list of the recalled items. They all target that best if used by date on or before August 16th. If you think you have one of these products, get rid of it. The best advice is to return it or throw it out. If you think you've consumed one of the products, monitor yourself. If you feel sick, of course, call your doctor right away.
All right, Steve Patterson, thank you so much for that great reporting. From heat waves sending temperatures soaring into the triple digits to storms packing hail and 75-mile-per-hour winds, extreme weather is sweeping coast to coast today. Chicago is bracing for even more rain after being pummeled the last few days. The city is under a flood watch until tomorrow morning, and the storms are expanding throughout other regions as well. 36 million people are at risk from Iowa to North Carolina today. A tornado or two is even possible. Joining us now, NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, let's start with these storms. Who's in their path?
Yeah, so we've got multiple locations. You mentioned Chicago, seeing that kind of round yet again, Christine. And no surprise, some thunderstorm watches have been issued and now will last at least through the early afternoon hours for places like Chicago, Peoria, and then a section of southern Ohio, Cincinnati included in that, a sliver of parts of Kentucky, as well as Indiana. This is going to be something that we kind of see be ramping up now and lasting through the early afternoon hours. And this is going to be mainly severe weather in the form of strong wind gusts as well as hail. But again, an isolated tornado not out of the question for this region. Pretty expansive. This goes through the afternoon hours all the way into this evening. This is going to be the hail, the wind gusts main issue. So we'll be keeping an eye on exactly that as we go through at least the next couple of hours, Christine.
And we know that we're breaking records here. July was the hottest month on record for the U.S. Not expected to cool down anytime soon. What's the forecast for that?
Yeah, this climate-fueled heat wave kind of situation that we've seen for days and days, or weeks and weeks, I should say, across the summer, it continues, unfortunately, today. 53 million people under these alerts, these heat alerts across parts of the plains, stretching down to the south, parts of the southeast included in that. As you guessed it, that heat dome ramps our temperatures up to the 90s plus over the next couple of days. There's not a whole lot of relief in sight. We've still got 99 on tap for the actual temperature in St. Louis today, but feeling like 107. Closer to the coast, 107 for what it feels like in Wilmington. Similar story for New Orleans. Really, you look anywhere on this map, Christine, over the next couple of days, and it is going to be oppressive even through the weekend in a lot of these locations.
All right, Angie Lassman. Thank you, Angie. Nice to see you. All right, more to come this hour. The president's new order on vaccines for kids against the advice of top pediatric groups and science. What the complete overhaul means for your family. Plus, the new media venture for former President Barack Obama, his new foray into podcasting. And later this hour, the British politician who wears a garbage can on his head. Yes, we are serious. His legit chance of winning a seat in Parliament. We'll get you current after the break. Love that. A major shift in the U.S. military assessment of Iran. American officials say Tehran's top priority has pivoted from building a nuclear weapon to now controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Before the war, the vital waterway carried a fifth of the world's oil. Tensions across the region remain high, with only a few ships passing through each day. NBC international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Tel Aviv. And Matt, the president has made clear his red line is Iran getting a nuclear weapon. He cannot have a nuclear weapon. But if U.S. intelligence now believes that's no longer a top priority for Tehran, what do officials you're speaking with say that means for the president and the U.S. strategy?
I mean, the thing that has been evident for quite a while, Christine, is that Iran wasn't necessarily overtly pursuing a nuclear weapon, and they have always maintained in public that they did not have a nuclear weapons program. So we don't know whether or not, the Iranians really had been pursuing a nuclear weapon. There were certainly some very loud voices in the Iranian government who were advocating for that. But this shift in intelligence kind of meets where the president had already been going. He has been focused mostly on the Strait of Hormuz because negotiations toward a more comprehensive nuclear deal are far from even starting, even though that was what was prescribed back in that memorandum of understanding, the Islamabad memorandum that was the original ceasefire deal. Now it looks as though this is slowly becoming, as the president said, a somewhat low-key affair where we're not really seeing much in the way of direct negotiations. What we have been seeing, and what we heard from the Qataris today, is that there have been somewhat successful negotiations toward some sort of deal between Oman and Iran to govern the Strait of Hormuz. That is where we're at, and according to news reports, the United States is involved mostly as an observer in those negotiations. So it looks as though there has been some progress. But the Iranians have said that they have further demands, and President Trump has come back with his own. So that's why this looks like it could take a lot longer.
Well, and after really military devastation to Iran's military prowess, now it has new leverage. Honestly, this war has given it new leverage over this very important strait.
That's right. If Iran and Oman do come to some sort of deal, even if it doesn't, exact tolls from ships who are crossing through the Strait of Hormuz, or even if it involves somewhat lighter touch than initial reports are saying it might, it would still mean that Iran and Oman, to some extent, have much more control over this international waterway than they did before the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran back in late February. So that would be, as you'd say, an own goal for the U.S. and Israel in their attacks on Iran. If now Iran was able to exert control and maybe even wrest some sort of financial penalty from ships who are going through, that would be a major, major setback for the U.S. and Israel, who joined that fight earlier.
Yeah, the White House has said consistently that it controls, the U.S. Navy controls the Strait of Hormuz, but we know that maybe only 6 or 7 ships are going through when 130 went through every day before the war. Matt Bradley, thank you so much. Nice to see you. All right, doctors are sounding the alarm today over proposed sweeping changes to the way children are vaccinated against dangerous infectious diseases in the U.S. President Trump signed an executive order yesterday aimed at reducing the number of federally recommended vaccines for children. He drew a link between vaccines and rising rates of autism as a reason for this new guidance. That is despite decades of research showing there is no association between childhood vaccines and autism. The order reaffirms Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s previous attempt to overhaul the nation's vaccine schedule, a move that was blocked in court. Joining us now, NBC News medical contributor Dr. John Torres. Dr. Torres, let's start with the executive order itself here. Break down the new guidelines for us. What's changing?
So there's a couple of things that are changing in here, a couple of things he put in the executive order, and probably the most prevalent one is the fact that he wants to reduce childhood vaccines that are recommended from 18 down to 11. And if you look at the different groups and what he's talking about, there's some that are recommended universally. And these are the vaccines that we're talking about: measles, mumps, rubella, tetanus, pertussis, polio. We have a list of them here of all the different vaccines that are out there that are recommended universally. And those are the ones they're putting in that group of 11, saying these are the ones that children should still get and their parents should still make sure they get. But then, and this is controversial, this is the one here he says, then the other set of vaccines that he dropped out of there should be shared decision making. In other words, the parent and the physician should make a decision. Every physician I know says, yes, that's great. Let's do shared decision making. If that is truly what we're doing, meaning the physician and the patient and the child are sitting down, they're talking about risks, benefits, and then the parent is saying, okay, I think I see the benefits are higher than this. I know they're higher. Let's go ahead and give the vaccine. And those are rotavirus, flu, cold, hepatitis A and B. The flu, hepatitis A and B, and bacterial meningitis, which is a killer.
And we know that established science thinks that Americans' childhood vaccine regime is one of the biggest miracles of the modern age, right? And now you're seeing this sort of chipping away at the confidence in that. The president also said that childhood vaccines should be administered now on separate doctor's visits. I wonder what that means practically for families. First of all, I don't think the MMR is in 3 separate shots at the moment. So that has to be developed, tested, and rolled out. And then does that mean 3 separate co-pays for American families, or 3 separate? It sounds like more costs for families.
That's what we don't know, but that's what it sounds like. He wants separate visits here. And to bring up your first point there, where he talked about the fact that decades ago, we didn't have that many vaccines. Now we have a lot more vaccines. Science has advanced to the point where decades ago, we couldn't get a vaccine because we didn't have the science to protect ourselves from these viruses. Now we do. And so that's why we've advanced to the stage where we have vaccines that can treat these killer diseases that are out there. But what he's saying is MMR for particular, measles, measles, mumps, rubella. He wants to take those and he wants to separate them into 3 separate shots, given at 3 separate times on 3 separate visits. That usually means extra copays. The parent has to take time off from work. You have to get the kid out of school and take them there. And for those of us that have children, kids don't like shots to begin with.
Yeah.
1, much better than 3.
Okay, we'll do more on this, a lot more on this. Thank you so much, Dr. John Torres. All right, from the new Attorney General to Barack Obama's foray into podcasting, let's get you politically current this morning. Today will be Todd Blanche's first full day as the official U.S. Attorney General. The president's former personal attorney was sworn in Monday afternoon in the Oval Office. Blanche overcame weeks of political debate and controversy over that so-called anti-weaponization fund. He had been leading the DOJ in an acting capacity since Pam Bondi's departure back in April. A temporary setback for New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's luxury tax on second homes worth more than $5 million. A judge siding with homeowners and pausing the rollout of this contentious tax on wealthy New Yorkers. The city is appealing the pause. It's estimated that tax would generate around $500 million a year. Former President Barack Obama just announced a new media venture. He's entering the world of podcasting. It's called A Great Book with Barack Obama. He'll be joined by notable authors and talk about the amazing books that have influenced him. The podcast is set to debut in September. Coming up, the dazzling eclipse set for tomorrow. What scientists are hoping to learn and where in the U.S. you can see it. Plus, the new record America just set, our hottest month ever recorded. We have more current right after this. From the trial in Tupac Shakur's killing to the hottest month on record, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. Jury selection will resume today in the high-profile trial of the man accused of ordering Tupac Shakur's killing. Dwayne Keffe D. Davis has pleaded not guilty to murder in the 1996 shooting. Shakur was in the passenger seat of a BMW driven by Suge Knight when he was shot 4 times near the Las Vegas Strip. He died 6 days later. Davis was arrested in 2023. His trial is expected to last about a month. The U.S. just had its hottest month on record. According to NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, last month was not only the warmest July, but also the hottest month in its 132 years of record keeping. That heat came with extreme weather events from wildfires to storms to drought. In Big Bear, California, Jackie, the bald eagle who became an internet favorite alongside her mate Shadow, has died after weeks of intensive medical care. The Ojai Raptor Center says Jackie's condition worsened despite treatment. She had been hospitalized after a territorial fight that left her unable to fly. Jackie and Shadow had been featured on Livestream Nest Camera for about a decade. A total solar eclipse is crossing parts of Europe tomorrow, and some people in the U.S. could see it. This is the first time since 1999 that a total solar eclipse will be visible from mainland Europe. It will briefly darken the sky for millions of people. Joining us now from Spain, NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez. Raf, where are the lucky cities in Europe that will get to experience the full totality tomorrow?
Hey, Christine, good morning from Spain. No shortage of sunshine here right now, but we are still some 24 hours out from the eclipse. Here's the deal. The path of totality, the route along which the sun is going to be completely obscured by the moon, it kind of runs like a backwards J almost. It's going to go from Greenland along the western coast of Iceland, and then it is going to swoop in here in northern Spain. It's going to reach us at about 8:30 local time, so it's going to be kind of interesting. The sun will just be going down, and then it will be completely covered before it sets altogether. We have about 1 minute 43 seconds here in northern Spain where that total eclipse is going to be in effect. All you're going to see is just the sort of shimmering corona of the sun around the shadow of the moon. Probably the single best place to see it would be either the coast of Greenland, or if you wanted to get yourself a boat off of Iceland, you could do that too. If that sounds like a lot of hassle, it is going to be really, really extraordinary here in Spain. Some 450,000 foreign visitors have traveled to Spain to catch a glimpse of it. That's according to Spanish government estimates. And I can tell you, the hotels, the restaurants here are totally full. Christine.
Wow. Okay, this was incredible to witness here in the U.S. back in 2024. But some lucky Americans, Raf, will get around too, at least maybe partially. Where can we see it?
So if you're up in Alaska, you're going to see about a quarter eclipse. So you'll see a fair bit of the sun covered. It's then going to kind of make its way over the northeast. Bangor, Maine is going to be pretty good. As it heads down the east coast towards the mid-Atlantic, you're going to see less and less and less. Christine, I'm sorry to say, where you are in New York City, it's going to be about 9% covered. So you're going to see just the littlest bite out of the sun there. What has been kind of interesting here in Spain is we have met a bunch of American veteran eclipse chasers. These are people who saw the eclipse back in 2024, and they are now here. We just met the Fulmer family from Las Vegas. They came over with their 3 kids, and this is something they are hoping their children are going to remember for a long time. Christine?
Yeah, Raph, our director Adam actually went there to see this too. So, yeah, it is a real thing, eclipse tourism. Raph Sanchez, thank you so much. Nice to see you. Joining us now, former NASA astronaut Jose Hernandez. Jose, what are scientists most excited to learn about when a solar eclipse happens?
Well, when a solar eclipse happens, especially in the path of totality, what they're interested in seeing is when it's completely covered, they're able to study the corona, the outskirts of the sun. They're also able to do atmospheric measurements of the sudden coolness, the darkness of the atmosphere. So those are pretty important. And for those of us that can't travel to Spain, like Rob, you can actually see it on the NASA channel. They're going to live stream that. And there's a double dose of astronomical events, because right after that, you got the perceived meteor showers, the annual event where you get 50 to 60 meteors an hour that you're able to see. So that's going to be pretty exciting, too.
Yeah, tell us more about that. What is happening exactly for that meteor show the night of the eclipse?
Yeah, what happens is that the Earth passes through the path of the Swift-Tuttle comet, which loses a lot of particles of ice, and then when it goes through it, we get that great meteor shower that they heat up in the atmosphere, and then you see the light. They never hit the ground, so they're harmless.
What's the best way to view the eclipse safely?
Best way to view the eclipse safely is to create a box, a little hole, point it towards the sun, and you see it at the end of the box there. That's the safest way. Or put some welding, special glasses, but don't look up without any glasses.
Yeah, very good advice. Jose Hernandez, thank you so much. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Christine.
And you can watch live coverage of the total eclipse tomorrow right here on NBC News Now. Coming up, the new ban in France that has people jumping for joy, why the country is now outlawing those annoying telemarketer calls. And we take you inside the beautiful mess that is British politics. Your introduction to Count Binface is just ahead. I'm not kidding. We're going to get you current right after this. If you've ever wished those annoying telemarketing calls would just stop, you're going to want to hear what France is doing. Starting today, new rules are making it much harder for companies there to cold call consumers without their permission, a move that could have a lot of Americans saying, hey, why not here? NBC News correspondent Joe Fryer joins me now. Joe, I think a lot of people hearing this are saying, sign me up. How exactly is this going to work?
Yeah, so if the bread and the wine didn't make you want to move to France, I think this might make you want to do that. So bottom line, this is a new law. It basically says telemarketers can only call you with your prior consent. In other words, you as a consumer have to opt in. There are a couple small exceptions, so you do want to read the fine print. But overall, if a company violates this, it's not some small fine. One ring could cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's a universal feeling.
I get like 30 spam calls a day.
Wishing telemarketers would just hold the phone.
I have reached the bitter end with these spam calls.
Well, starting today, France is ringing in a new era. Lawmakers there passed a law that bans unsolicited telemarketing calls. Instead of opting out to avoid those unwanted contacts, consumers can only receive a call from companies if they opt in. Companies violating the new rules may be fined the equivalent of $435,000 per call. The crackdown's aimed at tackling a problem that, for decades, has plagued anyone with a phone.
Right now, why don't you give me your home number and I'll call you later?
Well, I'm sorry. We're not allowed to do that.
Oh, I guess you don't want people calling you at home.
No.
Well, now you know how I feel.
Last year, the Federal Trade Commission received more than 2.6 million do not call registry complaints, up more than 25% from the year before. Here in the States, U.S. lawmakers are also looking to tackle the issue with numerous bills in the works, including the Foreign Robocall Elimination Act, which passed in the Senate just last week and would crack down on illegal calls coming from overseas. But for those not wanting to wait on Congress, you can sign up for the National Do Not Call Registry to help cut down on unwanted sales calls. Blocking calls is also an option by using your phone's built-in features or by downloading call blocking apps. And if you hear something like this...
This message is from the Taxpayer Support Office. You've been marked for IRS resolution options.
Those robocalls are most likely already illegal. Report them to the FTC. But for the French, with nearly 3/4 saying they receive at least one sales call a week, this new ban is a step in saying au revoir to those robocalls for good.
Okay, so annoying. Any additional pro tips for us here to try to cut down on these unwanted calls?
The general rule of thumb is sort of ignore, report, delete. So when the call comes in, ignore it. And then usually with just a couple pushes of the button, you can report it and delete it all at once. You might also want to reach out to your specific phone carrier to see if they have any special call blocking services that could help. The other thing to remember is perhaps the most annoying thing has now become these spam texts that we're getting all the time. Obviously, it doesn't bother you because you have to pick up the phone, but it's still kind of clogging your inbox there. What you can do with those is you can report them. Just copy and paste it. You can send it to the FTC. You just send it to the number 7726. If you think that's hard to remember, it's not hard to remember because with the letters on the phone, it spells out spam.
Love it.
Spam.
Well, I know that my phone, like, it'll say spam call likely, you know, so there are a lot of calls I get that I just don't even pick them up and they just go away. But so already maybe there's some software that's helping decide what's likely not what I want to listen to.
It also feels like whack-a-mole, though, right? Like one number gets knocked down and then suddenly a new number pops back up.
But, you know, for hundreds of thousands of those calls, just a couple of them, people, especially elderly people who might fall victim to it, and then that is the incentive for the bots or whatever, just to keep doing it. It's just
a lot
frustrating.
of scams. Yep.
All right, nice to see you. Thanks so much, Joe. All right, we're back with the debate playing out across the country when it comes to those flock safety cameras. Well, authorities say the controversial license plate readers are extremely helpful in tracking down criminals. Critics say they go too far. They call them an invasion of privacy. NBC's Dana Griffin has more.
The battle over flock traffic cameras moving from community meetings.
The majority of people do not want to be filmed.
Please do the right thing.
To the streets themselves. NBC affiliate Care 11 reporting cities across Minnesota say the surveillance cameras are targets, stolen, damaged, or vandalized in recent months.
We have 6 cameras, or only 2 of them are active right now. 4 have been damaged at different points in time.
And even a candidate for Congress in Tennessee running as an independent is currently facing felony vandalism charges for allegedly using a shotgun to take out flock cameras. He's yet to enter a plea. His campaign said he is unable to comment on the allegations. Clearly a debate playing out from coast to coast.
I think we should completely remove them.
NBC News covered the controversy in depth last month as dozens of municipalities canceled or let their contracts with Flock expire over the past year, and at least 15 more rejected proposed Flock contracts due to community pushback.
Your community is telling you that we don't want this.
The cameras are installed at intersections and capture detailed vehicle data, which AI can analyze to identify people and alert authorities who say it's an important crime-fighting tool. But critics argue they go too far.
You know, I'm all for putting the bad guys away, so I
the license plate detection, and you can see that it sort of follows him in the shot.
For our previous coverage, I met with the co-founders of Deflock Pasadena, a grassroots organization hoping to pressure Pasadena to cancel its existing contract with Flock. What's the biggest concern here?
I think the biggest concern is that if these technologies were used by police for a wrongful conviction, that basically ruins someone's life.
I also wanted to get a sense of how they're being used by law enforcement, so we went to Alameda County. You hear an alert tone. What does that tell you?
So the alert tone is related to the license plate readers, and it lets us know that there's been an activation. There's one right now. on a vehicle traveling past one of our cameras that are positioned in a public place.
What could that mean exactly?
It can mean a number of things. That camera network is hooked up to the Department of Justice, so the stolen vehicle system. It could be an armed robbery car, carjacking, a murder vehicle.
I mean, this thing is going off.
We get a lot of alerts in this county.
While it may receive information from federal law enforcement, Alameda County insists the data isn't flowing the other way.
We have absolutely no external sharing with any federal agencies or immigration. There is no way they could access our data without our knowledge.
Oakland, which is in Alameda County, also has seen its flock cameras vandalized with paint earlier this year. Flock insists it's strengthened guardrails to secure data that's being collected.
Well, I know there's concerns about whether or not this data is being shared with ICE. Flock does not have a relationship with ICE.
The company says where it's shared is really up to local authorities.
Cities actually control the data completely and have complete authority over how it's being used.
Back in Minnesota, Care 11 reports data that isn't part of an active investigation has to be deleted within 60 days, according to state law.
The second we realize the vehicle is not involved, it's gone. 30 days later, it's deleted. No one ever pays attention to it again.
Still, the controversy not likely to be wiped clean anytime soon. Dana Griffin, NBC News.
All right, coming up, the man in the can, a British writer who goes by the name Count Binface, is up for Parliament in the UK. The reason he's running as a parody candidate. And coming up next hour, you've heard of looks maxing, but what about money maxing? The trend that's making saving cool for Gen Z. We have more current right after this. And now for a politics check across the pond. A candidate for Parliament in the United Kingdom is taking on one of the country's most well-known politicians in an election. His name is Count Binface. He's the man in the can who is running against Nigel Farage, and here's his pitch.
I'm the only fresh thing on the menu. You're all sick of these politicians, as good as they're trying to be. But, you need something different. A little bit of secret sauce. The Colonel's secret blend of herbs and spices. Voila.
An American reference in a UK election. Joining us now is NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer. Count Binface, he's known in the UK, but this is not the first election he has run in. Bring us up to speed. Who is this guy?
Well, he is a known character, and his chances of winning are slim. Though one poll suggests that Count Binface could get 20% of the vote, and that's nothing to scoff at. The mere fact that he's getting so much attention and that you and I are talking about Count Binface as a contender is a victory in its own way. The point is not to make fun of the process, but to keep the field open to anyone who believes they offer an alternative to candidates like Nigel Farage, who is known for strong positions on immigration and the European Union, obviously, and provocative when it comes to what he calls woke politics. So enter Count Binface. Self-proclaimed space warrior. He wears a cape and body armor and a garbage bin on his head to be a protest vote in almost every sense of the word. All the mainstream political parties have declined to stand candidates. So that's left Binface as the principal challenger. He describes himself as the man in a can with a 20-point plan, and his promises include things like building one affordable house, abolishing automatic renewal of online subscriptions, which I kind of agree with, nationalizing the British singer Adele, and capping the price of croissants, Christine. That is the policy on which he hopes to be elected.
Yeah, no jargon, no fast talk, just some simple promises people can understand. This is a critical election against a controversial politician, Nigel Farage, whose finances are under scrutiny at the moment. Count Binface is probably the most recognizable challenger. Has Farage's campaign responded?
Not directly. There's a long tradition in the UK of joke political candidates taking full advantage of the laws here that allow any adult to run for political office. For this special election in Clacton, which is a small seaside town, the ballot is 3 feet long, and it includes multiple members of the monster raving loony party. In the past, Count Binface has run against prime ministers, so he isn't a stranger to this. But what is remarkable, Christine, is the contrast between these two candidates. Farage using provocation to make serious points, Binface using comedy to make the same serious points. But it's how people are reacting this time. And some would argue that Binface's policies, as they relate to affordability and consumer prices and a lot of the issues that people are concerned with right now, are perhaps more achievable than some of these grander promises that are made by major political parties. It's also a time of real political sensitivity in the UK. Farage is trying to build momentum for his populist and right-of-centre Reform Party. He's also trying to dodge ethical scrutiny. So the question is, can the man in a can pull off a political upset? And that ultimately is going to be up to voters later this week. Christine.
Fascinating. All right, Janice Mackey-Frayer. Thanks, Janice. There's much more news ahead. The next hour of Current starts right now. And good morning. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Secret mission, a new report today about an elaborate plan involving a decoy plane and a catering truck to conceal President Trump's location. The questions now being raised about presidential security. Decision 2026, progressives facing major tests in today's primaries. We're on the ground in the key states with the races to watch. The aftermath, more than 160 people are dead after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake shook western Colombia. We'll take you there to show you the damage. CEO killing Luigi Mangione in a New York City courtroom for his final hearing before a jury hears his case. His defense team pushing for the trial to be televised. And good to be with you this Tuesday, August 11th. We've got a lot of news to get to this morning. We begin this hour with breaking news involving President Trump and the extraordinary efforts allegedly used to conceal his movements during last month's trip to Turkey for the NATO summit. The Washington Post reports the president boarded the former Air Force One apparently as a decoy before getting off the plane, leaving in an airport catering truck and secretly boarding a different military jet that flew him out of the country. Joining us now, NBC News senior policy reporter Shannon Pettypiece of the White House and Matt Bradley from Tel Aviv. Shannon, this play-by-play is just fascinating. The president said he was flying on the former Air Force One for, quote, old time's sake. The new plane he flew to Turkey in, a gift from Qatar, was headed to the UK for U.S. service members to see. But reporters on board believe the president was still with them. How did this decoy actually play out?
So here is what we know, Christine, based on reporting from my colleagues here at NBC News and also the Washington Post, which was the first to report this story. So the president was seen boarding the original Air Force One that we all know and are familiar with in Turkey, goes up the steps, gives a little wave, enters the plane. Now, instead of then going into his office or his personal quarters, the Washington Post is reporting, based on material they said they've reviewed and a U.S. official familiar with these plans, the president then goes to the back of the plane and enters through a cargo truck that you can see there that had its sort of container section airlifted or sort of hydraulically lifted to the back door of the plane. Something you might have noticed on like commercial airliners where they load in the meals and other supplies for the plane. So the president enters through this cargo portion of this truck, which is then hydraulically lifted down, drives then to another military airplane on the runway and lifts up again and reloads the president in this sort of decoy Air Force One military plane. The reporters traveling with the president who were on board the original Air Force One were not informed of this, did not know of the president's whereabouts. It takes off from Turkey, lands in the UK. The president then is apparently transported back onto Air Force One, exits the plane like, nothing ever happened, and proceeds on to the U.S. from there. So it's something that sounds like it could be out of a spy novel, Christine, but, reporting by the Washington Post and a bit from my colleagues here at NBC News indicate that is what took place here on this trip back from Turkey, which, as you noted, kind of had a little bit of controversy from the very start here.
Yeah, it certainly did. Matt, what do we know about Iranian threats against the president?
Well, we know that the Iranian threats against the president predate the latest war. And in fact, the Iranians and the U.S. have always had very, very frosty relations. But it's only recently that we've seen them actually come to open blows. But the Iranians have more than just one open account with President Trump, who killed the Ayatollah just a couple of months ago on the very first day of this offensive. It's also back a couple of years ago when he killed the head of the IRGC Quds Force. Now, this is a man who was a major operator in the Middle East. He was helping Iran to back up and support their proxy groups throughout the region. And his assassination during Trump's first term basically pushed the Iranians to swear that they would be taking revenge on President Trump personally. So it's not just this latest conflict that the Iranians have been using threats against the president.
Shannon, what more are we learning about the security of that newly gifted Air Force One? It was a gift from Qatar. There have been some security upgrades, but as you said, at the beginning of that trip to Turkey, there were concerns about its safety in the region. What more do we know?
Yeah, well, the White House is standing by the safety and security of this plane in a statement they gave to NBC News after this story broke. I mean, just by a little way of background, though, to remind everybody, last year, Qatar gifted this plane to the U.S. This is very unusual, but the idea was a gift to give the president a more newer, luxurious plane to travel on compared to the sort of 30-something-year-old Air Force One that he, has previously traveled and the public's familiar with. There is a new Air Force One that's being built that should be going into service relatively soon, but that this was sort of like an intermediate plane. The Defense Department then kind of had to scramble to retrofit this gifted plane to have all the communications and special security measures that Air Force One has. It's not just like your typical commercial plane. It's probably one of the most secure aircrafts in the world. So they got that completed for this president's trip to Turkey. And the Air Force is saying that they made no sacrifices or cuts on communication, on safety, on security. But they did say that this, gifted retrofitted plane does not have necessarily the state-of-the-art security that the new Air Force One will have. So some changes and compromises there. All, of course, very unusual for a president to be flying on a plane that was gifted to him from a foreign country.
Yeah, the taxpayers then are paying to upgrade to make sure that those security standards are up to snuff. Shannon Pettypiece, Matt Bradley, thank you so much. Primary voters are hitting the polls today. 6 states are holding contests that could help set the stage in November's midterms with 2 key races in the spotlight. In Wisconsin, progressive Democrats are looking to keep their momentum going with Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong as the frontrunner for governor, following a string of left-wing primary successes this year. And in South Carolina, Darlene Graham is vying for the Senate seat once held by her late brother, Senator Lindsey Graham. And that is a crowded Republican field. Joining us from South Carolina, NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles, and in Wisconsin, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster. Shaq, let me start with you there. Progressives have already notched some major victories this primary season. How much of a bellwether is this Wisconsin race?
Well, it's really, again, a test of the Democratic base in a crucial swing state that is Wisconsin. And that's because Francesca Hong is not just a progressive candidate, but she's a proud Democratic socialist. You've heard her in these closing days really tout the issues that she's fighting for that are popular among Democratic voters here, but that general electric voters might be a little bit more skeptical of. I want you to listen to a little bit of what we heard from her and her messaging in these closing days.
I think more and more people across this state and this country, they are opening their eyes to an economy that is deeply rigged against working class people. So we're going to respond to make sure that we talk about the solutions and how we can deliver for working class people by taxing the ultra rich, making sure that we have a moratorium on data centers, that we're raising wages, fighting for universal child care.
Now, Hong is coming into Election Day with strong leads in public polling. Of course, we've seen in the past how different public polling can be from what voters actually do when they cast their ballot. But she's also had to defend and walk back some previous comments that she's made online. Things like abolishing the Senate or calling to defund the police or even canceling Thanksgiving. Those are issues that her opponent has really taken advantage of in saying that she's not ready for the attention that she's been receiving. evening.
Yeah, and Shaq, the outgoing Governor Tony Evers is backing her opponent, David Crowley. I mean, is that going to be a big sway for Democratic voters there? Can his support maybe change the dynamic of this race?
It could, and that will be the real question here, because Tony Evers, he's a two-term governor here in the state of Wisconsin. He's fairly popular among Democratic voters, among voters here in the state of Wisconsin. He declined to run again, even though he had the option to here in the state. And he has been neck and neck, or he's been arm in arm with David Crowley on the campaign trail, touting him. He is part of the reason why Crowley, who last month temporarily suspended his campaign, dropped out of the race, while he ultimately re-entered the race, part of that effort to stop the progress in the advancement and surge that you've been seeing from Francesca Hong. I think the big question is how much that will play in the minds of voters who are heading to the polls today, especially considering Hong's rough past weeks or so.
Yeah. Turning to South Carolina now, Ryan, President Trump came out quickly to endorse Darlene Graham in a packed Republican field. Do you think that's enough to help her win outright without a runoff?
It doesn't seem like it's going to be, Christine. And in fact, we are waiting for Darlene Graham to come and vote here behind me in Lexington, South Carolina. She's expected any minute. And if there's anything telling us about the expectations tonight, she's not planning a big victory rally, just a statement when the polls close, which is an indication that they believe that this is likely going to a runoff. And one of the reasons it's going to a runoff is because there are so many candidates. More than a dozen candidates are in this race to replace the Republican nominee after the death of Lindsey Graham. And there's no doubt that Darlene Graham has the edge. Not only was she appointed to fill out the rest of her brother's term, but she also has that name recognition. She also has President Trump's endorsement. But there are several other candidates in this race, including two sitting members of the House of Representatives, a former governor, and Mark Sanford, all who have very good name ID. And that's why this is going to be so close. We expect it to go to a runoff. That'll happen in another 2 weeks. Graham's hope today is that she makes it to that runoff, and then President Trump helps her get over the finish line. Christine.
I mean, her name is very familiar. Her brother governed there for years and years, but she doesn't have any elected office experience. What is she telling voters? What's the, closing message?
Yeah, well, first let's talk about what voters are saying about her, and it's those exact characteristics that you mentioned. There is a concern that she doesn't have the necessary experience to take on such a huge responsibility of being a member of the United States Senate. There was also a degree of questioning whether or not this is just being handed to her just because she happens to be Lindsey Graham's sister. The voters that I talked to seem very concerned about that. And then, in general, it's the message that she's sending, right? Her brother, known as a national security expert, somebody that played on a national and international stage, she's focusing her message more on the domestic issues that are impacting everyday South Carolinians, talking about gas prices, talking about the economy, talking about things that will make their lives easier. The question is, can she separate her brother's legacy to focus in on those issues that South Carolina voters are really caring about, especially because the Iran war is not very popular here in this state. So it is a difficult bar for her to cross. So we'll have to see how it all works out tonight.
All right. Big day, big night for you guys. Primary day. Ryan and Shaq, thank you so much. Don't miss our live updates on the midterm primaries tonight. And for expert analysis on the midterms all season long, scan this QR code and subscribe to the Data Dive with Steve Kornacki. His weekly newsletter will drop every Tuesday. We are also following breaking news in Colombia. Rescuers are urgently searching for survivors. A deadly 7.4 magnitude earthquake shook the western part of the country yesterday morning. Authorities say at least 169 people were killed in the quake. That number is expected to rise. Nearly 1,000 others were hurt. It's not just rescue crews. Locals are digging through rubble with bare hands to find survivors. An estimated 5,000 homes are either damaged or destroyed. NBC News correspondent George Solis is on the ground for us in Colombia. George.
What you're seeing right now are those recovery efforts in real time. Behind me, you can see this effort. Many people, first responders and volunteers, forming a human chain to get debris from out of what used to be an apartment building out onto dump trucks here. Some of them without sleep, some of them survivors of the earthquake themselves, saying they have to help. They are compelled to help. They want to make sure the roads are clear so some of the heavy machinery can get in here. The only time any of this stops is if anyone thinks they might hear a voice from deep within the rubble, at which point everyone is quiet, hoping they find a survivor. Unfortunately, the death toll continues to climb. It stands at more than 160 lives lost, and we're now getting new images of how bad this quake was and how it caught so many people off guard. And again, you can just see by the surge of activity here, this isn't just first responders. These are volunteers, some of them coming from far away because they want to spread the word. If they find someone's loved one, that they are able to tell them, we found that person alive here, or we found remains. Again, here in the early hours, more than 24 hours after the earthquake now, people are still hopeful that they will find survivors. But of course, with 6 of the country's airports closed, bringing resources in for help is going to be a challenge. Many Colombians saying they are going to rely on each other right now. This is an effort of just human spirit and will through all of this activity, and unfortunately still so many reeling after this earthquake. Back to you.
All right, George Solis, thank you. We're also following accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione's court appearance in New York City this morning. It could be the last time we see him in public before his state trial begins next month. In the state case, Mangione is facing 8 criminal counts, including second-degree murder. On the federal side, Mangione faces 2 counts of stalking. The 28-year-old has pleaded not guilty to all of those charges. Jury selection in his federal case is slated to begin in January. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk from outside the courthouse for us. Stephanie, you were in the courtroom. This pre-trial hearing just wrapped up. Tell us what went down.
Yeah, Christine, I mean, a lot of attention for a hearing that was really pretty clerical, a discussion of logistics, but it gives you an idea of just how this blockbuster trial is going to play out when it starts on September 8th. There is going to be an enormous amount of attention. And one of the things they talked about today was the access to the courtroom for the public and for the media. And the judge actually admonishing the defense team for a moment, accusing them of recklessly mischaracterizing their efforts to allow that access to be as full as possible to everyone who wants to be there. Ultimately, the judge said, we're doing everything we can to get as many people as we can in this courtroom, press included. They're actually going to set up an overflow room as well. They also talked about the jury questionnaire, and then it all wrapped up, and the judge said, I will see you on September 8th. So barring any other unforeseen circumstances, this trial is a go.
So any issues that still need to be resolved before the jury selection can begin?
Yeah, the judge told both sides, the prosecutors and the defense team, they have to get together to discuss this questionnaire for the jurors. As you know, this is a case that has gotten an enormous amount of attention since it happened. So most of the people who are going to be coming in to the court to serve as jurors will have heard of this case. They will know some details. You can expect the defense on their side to hone in on how they feel about health care. Also, the prosecutors will as well, that health insurance industry very specifically. You know, as this case plays out, you're going to see the prosecutors try to deflect as much of the conversation as possible away from the health insurance industry, while the defense is going to want that to be their focus, Christine.
This state case is set to go to trial before the federal case. How could what happens in this first trial affect the second, if anything?
Well, I mean, you have to talk about a couple of things. First of all, the charges are different. You have, as you mentioned, you have second-degree murder in this state case, along with a bunch of other charges. And then in the federal case, there was a capital charge, but that actually was dismissed, that charge. And now what you have are these stalking charges that led to death. So they are slightly different. But when you talk about seating a jury for a federal case, once you already have a verdict in a state case, that's going to obviously change the tone and tenor. There were some conversations about how there were discussions underway about a possible plea deal in the federal case. So far, there's been nothing that has come of that, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that as well, Christine.
All right, Stephanie Gosk there outside the courthouse. Thank you, Steph. Coming up, gripping testimony from one of the psychiatrists who treated Lindsay Clancy just one day before she allegedly killed her 3 children. What she said about Clancy's state of mind. Plus, thousands of lawsuits against Meta, Google, and TikTok can now move forward. How the social media giants plan to defend themselves against claims that they are intentionally addictive. And later, young people are cutting their expenses and investing in their futures. The reason behind the new money maxing trend taking social media by storm. We'll get to current after the break. A tense day in court during the murder trial of Lindsey Clancy. Things got heated yesterday when Clancy's attorney cross-examined Clancy's former psychiatrist, Dr. Jennifer Tufts. Tufts treated Clancy up until the day before her 3 children were killed. We also heard new testimony from Julie Paul, a psychiatric nurse practitioner. She provided more insight into the types of medications Clancy was prescribed in the months leading up to the killings. Joining us now, NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. This is just a tough trial all around, Danny. And yesterday you saw Clancy's attorney and the former psychiatrist getting into it over a note the doctor had written about Clancy when she was in her care. Break down what happened and why it's central to the defense's argument.
Yeah, this note is key because it has something about pressured speech. And the defense's theory is that pressured speech is a classic sign of mania. It's part of their overall theory that they're trying to advance, that the system failed the defendant. The system missed the red flags, and the red flags were there to be seen. By doing that, they do accomplish 2 things. They establish the medical conditions that they want to, and they push off liability. They give the jury somebody else to blame. In other words, that it wasn't, in addition to this mania, the system should have seen this. They could have stopped this. They didn't. Those are the bad guys. That's the defense's theory.
Yeah, pressured speech is when someone speaks very quickly, urgent, and doesn't want to talk. It's a kind of behavior written about in that note. Julie Paul, the psychiatric nurse practitioner, is expected back on the stand today for cross-examination. What did we learn yesterday, and what do you expect to see today?
So everything is leading up to the testimony of these folks, these providers, and then experts as well. All of the underlying facts are, in a way, not as material. They're horrific, but they're not as material to the central issue in this case, which the jury has to decide. Has the prosecution met its burden to disprove the mental illness, that she was suffering from a mental illness at the time of the crime? And this kind of testimony gives us insight into what she was, what she might have been diagnosable with at the time of the crime. And we're going to hear more of that today. And the defense's mission is clear. Show, number 1, that there was evidence that she suffered from a mental illness. And number 2, that the system had all the signs in front of it. And the only reason nothing was done is because the system, the providers, failed.
How close is the prosecution to wrapping up its case, Danny?
Close. I mean, prosecutors and defense, they script out who they're going to call and the order they're going to call. But all of that can go kablooey once you're mid-trial because things change. You have different needs. Maybe you think you got enough out of one witness that you don't need to call the next witness. But all in all, the prosecution is very close. We knew they would build with the facts and lead then to find their finale would be the medical evidence, providers, experts, whatever.
All right, Danny Savalos, thank you so much. Another big case we're watching, a U.S. appeals court allowing thousands of lawsuits against social media giants to move forward. The lawsuits claim the companies designed their products to be addictive to young users. And now tech companies like Meta, Google, Snap, and TikTok's ByteDance will have to fight more than 3,000 cases in federal court. Joining us now, NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. And Ali, why did the appeals court, reject this appeal from the social media companies?
So this basically comes down to timing, Christine. So Meta, TikTok, these other social media companies, they argue that Section 230, which has generally and historically protected these companies from liability for content that their users post, that should be enough to prevent these trials from moving forward. But the Ninth Circuit, when they rejected this appeal, they said Section 230 is a defense against ultimate liability. It is not immunity from having to face these types of lawsuits in the first place. And that's a really important distinction. So essentially the court's saying here, this appeal came too early and that these cases, they need to play out before companies can appeal.
We know that these companies will now have to fight more than 3,000 lawsuits filed by parents, school districts, states. What's the next step for all of those cases then?
So they move forward, right? These 3,000 cases, they've been consolidated under a federal judge in Oakland, California, and we'll basically see each case play out in waves. So first up, 29 state attorneys generals, they filed that massive joint lawsuit against Meta. We are going to have jury selection for that case beginning tomorrow. 4 states, including California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey, will be taking the lead in the courtroom. After we have jury selection tomorrow, opening statements next week. And then Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify. Then in February, we will hear from the school districts. So basically all these different plaintiffs, from the schools to the states to parents, they will be laying out their arguments. And really it all boils down to the way these apps were created, that they were intentionally made in order to keep these kids hooked.
Yeah, some of these parents even say like enrage, engages, and all these things that keeps people coming back for the companies to make money. Earlier this year, Meta was ordered to pay, more than $900 million in New Mexico, then another $6 million in a Los Angeles trial alongside Google. I guess what could those losses tell us about where these cases might be headed?
Well, it certainly tells us that the plaintiff arguments, that they're resonating with these juries and these judges. Now, that doesn't mean these cases will have the exact same outcome. The LA case that you mentioned, that was seen as a bellwether of sorts, a test case to see how juries would respond. $6 million was awarded to the plaintiff. That's what Meta had to pay. You mentioned New Mexico. I mean, nearly $1 billion in damages here. And they also went a step further, requiring Meta to implement more things in order to prevent these kids from these mental harms and to prevent these addictive qualities here. So these are very different cases. And of course, the companies continue to appeal. They're continuing to fight this, but it's something that we'll be watching closely. And whatever we hear from these cases moving forward is going to be big for what's to come.
Yeah, a lot of attention on these cases. All right, Allie Canal, so nice to see you. Thank you.
Of course.
From Mark Zuckerberg's mega yacht to Trump media's high-speed data feed, let's get you financially current on the other headlines we're following today. A $300 million mega yacht owned by Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg failed to answer a radio call from a skiff in trouble off the coast of Alaska. The 387-foot long yacht named Launchpad was the closest vessel when the call was issued, but a tour boat further away had to jump to the rescue. When the people on board learned Zuckerberg's was closer, they started booing. The company behind President Trump's social media platform says it has signed up more than 10 firms for faster access to the president's posts. Each firm is paying between $60,000 to $100,000 a month for the service. According to Trump Media, the clients are, quote, primarily high-frequency trading firms getting access to the president's words before the public. Now for a check on markets this Tuesday. The major three averages, they're mixed this morning. The Dow is down about 30 points. The market's muted open is a response to Brent crude oil prices. Today, Brent crude oil touching $90 a barrel during trading. After the break, Beijing bracing for 1/3 of its annual rainfall in the next 24 hours. The floods and evacuations because of Typhoon Dolphin. And more on the Taylor Farms recall of jalapeno products over their salmonella risk. We have more current right after this. From a typhoon hitting China to those wildfires out west, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. In China, Typhoon Dolphin is moving deeper inland, bringing the threat of extreme rainfall, flooding, and landslides. Forecasters say the Beijing area could see nearly 10 inches of rain in just 24 hours. Tourist areas have closed, and some high-risk construction projects have been suspended as officials issue severe weather warnings. In Washington state, evacuees are returning to their homes after they were forced to flee 3 wildfires burning in Spokane. Fire crews got the upper hand in that fight over the weekend. More than 65,000 people were displaced by those fires. Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy is back with the team. He was absent for about 2 weeks following the shooting of his wife Mia at their Virginia home, allegedly by their son. Bieniemy returned to training camp Monday. Mia Bieniemy is reportedly stable and improving. Taylor Farms is expanding its recall of products containing jalapenos over fear of exposure to salmonella. Comes just weeks after the California-based company issued a separate recall of iceberg lettuce, which health officials linked to the widespread cyclospora outbreak across the country. And with new alerts on meat and poultry items, Americans are becoming increasingly unsure of what's safe to eat. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson. Steve, what do we know about how far this recall goes?
Yeah, this goes pretty deep. If we're just talking about this latest recall, right, this is 20 products distributed to big box stores in about 26 states. And when we're talking big box, I mean, these are some of the largest chains in the United States. You're talking about Walmart, you're talking about Whole Foods, Target, Trader Joe's. These products are typical in a lot of refrigerators and dinner tables across the country, right? Think about things that jalapenos touch: guacamole, pico de gallo, salsa of various kinds. all of them tied to this larger salmonella outbreak, which is, hurt 345 people across the country, 36 hospitalizations in 27 states. One way you can tell is they are specifically targeting that best if used by date on the products that is on or before August 16th. All of that information, CDC, FDA, check their websites if there is concern. Christine?
All right, walk us through the new alerts on meat and poultry. What's happening there?
Yeah, so tied to the same thing, right? All of this stemming from this salmonella outbreak that has been tied to those jalapenos that you see in back of me, tied to a specific region, to a specific farm. So if you have a meat or a poultry product that is a packaged product that uses that key ingredient, that is the worry, right? They're trying to shore up the supply chain on this by eliminating this foodborne illness, by telling people that these are the products that you need to watch for. That includes the meat and poultry that you see on the screen there. Christine?
How can Americans exercise caution when knowing what they can eat and where they can eat out?
You got to pay attention to the guidelines, right? Again, FDA, CDC, they have all of the recalled items on their website. They literally list them and they tie them to that specific salmonella outbreak. So if you see one of those items, if it's in your fridge, you check that best if used by date. If it matches, throw that thing out. You can return it to the store and get rid of it. If it's touched any surface, if you're really worried about it, disinfect the surface, contact your health professional if you feel sick. Another thing, just anecdotally speaking to shoppers, is a lot of people are feeling safer about their local market. Maybe there's not one of these big box chain stores. If you have a local grocery store that you go to, you can shake the hand of the owner and he's telling you, we get it from this specific farm that has not been tied to any of these outbreaks. That may be peace of mind for people, as well as like a farmer's market, someplace where it's a direct sale from the farm to the marketplace. That may be helpful and peace of mind for folks as well. But in a large amount of these cases, they are not tied to this outbreak. Again, this is very specific, but it's very scary for shoppers out there who are wondering what they can eat. Christine?
All right, Steve Patterson. Thank you, Steve. Okay, you've heard about maxing, right? Maxing is the latest trend on everything. You've probably heard looks maxing. This is young men trying to enhance their physical appearance. There's aura maxing, as the Trump administration says it's doing to beautify the nation's capital. Everything is maxing. Well, what about money maxing? This is a new trend going viral on social media among Gen Zers who are aiming to get rich. And they're starting in their late teens and 20s, making saving money and investing cool.
If you still don't know about money maxing, bro, there is something you are definitely doing wrong.
Really get to it. Really get to it. Really get to it.
This is your sign to money max and really get rich while we're young.
All right, joining us now, Caleb Silver. He's chief business editor at People Inc. and editor-in-chief of Investopedia. Both of us are early adopters of money maxing, I can say.
This is a trend that we absolutely can get behind 1,000%. You and I love this one. I know it.
I know. Look, I want to give you this number that really jumped out to me. People are Gen Z and millennials have a record amount in the stock market, $3.1 trillion worth of holdings in the market, 4.5 times greater than since the pandemic. That tells you this is really happening. That's invest maxing. Young people are putting their money in the market. One of the reasons I think is because they can't get in the housing market. So they're putting their money instead into the stock market. What do you think?
Yeah, that, and they know that the so-called American dream, whatever that was, is more and more out of reach for them if it's buying a house or if it's being able to save a lot for the future, but they're taking matters into their own hands, and I absolutely love it. This all goes with optimizing your personal finances, right, cutting the unnecessary expenses, really looking at your monthly bill, maximizing your credit card and your loyalty points, and then optimizing your yield, whether it's in the stock market, your 401k, your Roth IRA. This is good, a good trend that we really love.
What I'm seeing there is I'm seeing a response to affordability, the affordability crisis. But at the same time, people are complaining about affordability, but then they are playing offense, and they're investing. That's what that $3.1 trillion is.
Absolutely, and that's the only way you're going to be able to have enough for the future, paying your future self, because just working and getting that 3% raise, if you're lucky enough to get it, that's not going to cut it. The median income in this country is like $85,000. It's going to be hard to pay for everything, given the fact that everything is rising, especially healthcare expenses.
When I started investing, I had to pay for every single little trade. I had a little tiny account. I had to pay $7.99 or $9.99 for a trade that was almost worth nothing anyway. Now you don't have those fees. So you've got people on Robinhood and Schwab and E-Trade trade in all kinds of platforms. I think that might be one thing behind that number, that 3.1 trillion number. But let's talk about this other thing called Roth maxing. You maybe have seen these videos. These are young people who are putting $7,500 a year away. That's $625 a month. That seems like a lot if you're a young person and it's your first salary or second salary. But they're saying, I'm not putting it into the housing market or saving for a down payment. I'm going to plow that into here. And guess what? You can make $7,500 a year, make you really freaking rich someday if you can possibly do it.
They're doing the most important thing in terms of managing your own money. They are paying their future selves. It's not like they're buying something they won't have any value in the future. They're paying their future selves, and they're taking advantage of compounding. The earlier you start this game, the better off you are. So it's hard to come up with $7,500 a year when you're just starting out in your career. But if you can start to average that by the time you're 30, 32, 35 years old, you're going to be very happy with the returns, given the fact that the stock market has been on a tear for the past several years, but really for the past 20 years, and it averages around 10% plus a year. That's a great place to grow your money.
I mean, maybe you can't put $625 a month away. I totally get it. I mean, I look at car repair costs and car insurance and all that kind of stuff. It's been really tough. But it really just starts with $50 or $100.
50, 100, automate it, and that's what you see a lot of these Money Maxer or Invest Maxers doing. They're automating their contribution into their Roth IRA. Some of them have 401ks, and they have the Roth IRA. We love that. Some people have a small business, or they're creators, or they're consultants. They have the SEP account. That's a great way to save for the future in a tax-advantaged way, along with the Roth IRA. So the more people figure this out, and it's easier to figure out and more accessible, as you say, the better off they're going to be, because this is how you build wealth for the long term. It's really hard to do it working day in, day out, but this is how you actually pay your future self, and I love this trend.
I know, getting your money to work for you. Maxing, all the maxing. I like this
go.
maxing. Money maxing, invest maxing, Roth maxing, Caleb Silver maxing. Thank you. Coming up, global soccer confederations are accusing FIFA of deception. Their concerns over the controversial plan to sell a stake in the World Cup. And Hollywood is obsessed with finding its next viral blockbuster, while the industry is turning to Gen Z social media creators for answers. We'll get you current after this. President Trump is defending FIFA President Gianni Infantino in a new social media post. He says that FIFA would be making a terrible mistake if, for any reason, they even considered replacing President Gianni Infantino. The FIFA head is facing new scrutiny over his failed plan to sell stakes in the World Cup. Yesterday, 3 of the sport's 6 confederations released an open letter accusing FIFA of deception and breach of trust. Joining us now, Major League Soccer analyst and announcer Max Bretas. How significant is this open letter from the 3 football confederations? They're accusing FIFA of a fundamental breach of trust over this plan to sell stakes, this failed plan to sell stakes.
And a plan that might be still in process here, Christine. It's really like a Game of Thrones as it applies to the soccer world. There's 211 members in FIFA. Gianni Infantino looks to sell private equity shares of the World Cup, which was extremely profitable. President Donald Trump is speaking truths when he says that. But what happens if there is no Gianni Infantino? I think most people believe that soccer would be in a good position. But what is happening with this open letter, it includes the 55 members of UEFA, Europe, which is the biggest and most powerful soccer body of them all. The most recent World Cup, 6 of the 8 quarterfinalists were from Europe. So they wield a lot of power. They'll be able to force Gianni Infantino's hand, you would think. They have the support of CONCACAF, which is our region with the United States, which means it's quite contradictory that the president is saying this, because our federation is in support against Gianni Infantino, except for Mexico. Mexico is an outlier here. But Infantino has a lot of support, and I think he's going to dig in his heels. It's going to be interesting to see what comes of this. But it's a really unsavory way that we have to deal with things in the soccer world after such a wonderful World Cup. But the reality is, you can't deny it. There's so much money to be made. I think they said $13 billion was made at the 2026 edition.
Wow, and that's what so many fans have complained about, all the talk about the money and the profit. They want a clean game, and they want a beautiful game untainted by so much of this controversy and scandal. What does it tell you that President Trump has weighed in and come to Infantino's defense? I mean, Gianni Infantino famously gave him a FIFA Peace Prize. The 2 men are close. The president says, you'd make a lot less money if you didn't have Infantino there.
Yeah, and that remains to be seen. Although Gianni Infantino, you have to think whatever he did for this World Cup, it was incredible. You also got to keep in mind that Joshua Kushner, the son-in-law of the president, is part of that capital company, or the capital company that could benefit from the stakes of $4 billion that could be sold to private equity for the World Cup, which is the issue here. So I think as a soccer fan, when we saw our region come together, with the exception of Mexico, which is disappointing. And now there's reports that there may be an agreement with Gianni Infantino to move Mexico to the South American region, which is in support of Infantino, that you would have liked to have seen the president stay in line with what the federation is saying for the U.S. Because really, if Gianni Infantino, if he's run his course, and you want change and you want to see this money used in better ways for the world of football, then you need all the support you can get. Europe is going to be a big dog in this, but I think if the president, as much as he was an ally of Gianni Infantino during the World Cup, you would like to see him on board with the U.S. Federation, the CONCACAF, our federation, and it just makes this very puzzling. I think we're in for the long haul, even though some people feel that Gianni Infantino's hand might be played and he would have to resign at some point. I think they're being a bit naive. I think Gianni Infantino is not going to budge.
All right, Max Bretas, thank you so much. Great analysis. Nice to see you.
Hey, Chris.
It's been a record-breaking year at the box office, with movies like The Odyssey and Spider-Man, Brand New Day boosting ticket sales and really filling out theaters. But the little guys aren't trailing too far behind. Low-budget horror flicks are proving you don't need $1 million budget to make $1 million movie. Together, Obsession and Backrooms, both made by YouTubers, grossed more than $870 million worldwide. And now Hollywood is on the hunt for the next viral blockbuster. NBC News entertainment correspondent, my friend Chloe Malas, joins me now. Chloe, these films were made by YouTubers in their 20s. I love it. And they became these viral hits. And now the studios are desperate to find the next ones, aren't they?
They certainly are. And they're not just looking to YouTube, Christine. I mean, it's everything from Reddit to social media. But I just want to pull up a graphic really quickly with the big number that you just said. I mean, this is the phenomenon of the summer. $870 million and counting worldwide, globally at the box office. I mean, when you look at Curry Barker, that was a $750,000 budget for Obsession, right? Think about the ROI on that when you're looking at the numbers. Kane Parsons, Backrooms, opening to a jaw-dropping $80 million. And as you see, there's those film clips right there on the right of Backrooms. It started with just a photo that went viral on the internet of simply a back room. And there were all of these theories about what could the back room lead to.
Wow.
And obviously Kane Parsons, he did just that.
Interesting. So are the studios looking to scale back their big budgets, or are they looking to find and seek out the new viral, cheaper talent, or both?
So both. There is room for The Odyssey with Christopher Nolan, Spider-Man. I mean, look at the droves of people that went out for both of those movies. But when you look past this president, Christine, when you look at Saw, when you look at the Blair Witch Project and how those movies went viral, even Bridesmaids, how studios tried to recreate the ensemble female comedy cast, and some were a success and some weren't. But I want you to take a listen to an interview that my colleague Lauren Wilson and I did with the president of Blumhouse Atomic Monster, Abhijay Prakash, and he's actually behind Backrooms and Obsession. Take a listen.
The Monday after, there were like two managers that sent in scripts and packages of this project has gotten all these views, this video has gotten all these views on YouTube, and our filmmaker's ready to make a deal. But the fun challenge for us is separating out which ones are a fit for us and which ones aren't. Which ones are just, this has a lot of views on YouTube, doesn't necessarily mean that it's adaptable to be a scary theatrical horror event.
So I want to point something out here. In terms of what is coming down the pipeline, let's take a look at what these studios have greenlit. Amazon MGM has acquired the rights to the YouTube horror series, The Mandela Catalog, and this had a 5-studio bidding war. You also look at Barker with his success this summer. He actually is doing A24's reimagining of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then Warner Brothers has acquired the rights to something that has scared the socks off my kids for years. It's called Siren Head. I don't recommend going and looking at what Siren Head looks like. My kids have nightmares cares about it. But enough people are obsessed that now this is being turned into a feature film. So again, it's not just YouTube, but all of these creators have a proven track record, and I think you're going to see more of them helming big movies.
I'm there for it. I'm there for it. I love that people are filling the theaters, and there's lots of new talent at every price point. Chloe Malas, thank you so much. All right, up next, a refugee program in Arizona is providing migrants with life-changing resources. It's part of our series, 50 States in 50 Days. And a hospital celebrated the moment a mom could finally take her baby home after she was born weighing less than a pound. We have more current right after this. In our series, 50 States in 50 Days, we're introducing you to the people making a difference in their communities. Today, we're in Arizona, where tucked away inside this strip mall is a tiny center with a big mission to help refugees begin their lives in America. Bram Resnick from our Phoenix affiliate KPNX sat down with the woman at the heart of it all.
Juliana Larson is organizing.
Good morning. Hi. Good. Remind me to talk to you about summer programs, okay?
Counseling.
So what they have to do is you open up a case.
And connecting.
This is why I fell in love with what we get to do.
Larson is co-founder of the 3-year-old Arizona Refugee Center in Mesa. The nonprofit's volunteer staff serves as a bridge between migrants to the U.S. and the many services they need to begin to build a life here. From bus passes and sewing classes.
I went to bed with, can you use comma?
Yeah.
Because I was tired, huh?
Yes.
To learning the language and getting work permits.
If you go in that class, there's people from at least 8 different countries in there. And they're all here just wanting to improve. So we got a baby.
The bustling strip mall space sits along the light rail line.
Humble is too humble a word to describe.
A bit primitive, I know.
Larson's office without walls is barely big enough to fit her hand-me-down desk.
You have an Afghan family coming in. You were talking to a Ukrainian man and woman as if you were an immigration lawyer. Just a few minutes ago, you're over there raising money for the center. Did you know what you were getting into?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I didn't know.
Larson never saw herself becoming a fierce advocate for refugees. She was a broadcast major in college, then a stay-at-home mom with 6 kids. But after the September 11th attacks, she saw a change in how immigrants were treated.
I think it was wrong of us to have those feelings. I definitely experienced those feelings.
That led to Larson volunteering to help Somali refugees. And then, 3 years ago, the founding of the Refugee Center. Her work has provided much-needed help and hope, though it's been challenging as immigration policies have shifted dramatically.
We could no longer offer people hope. And that has been devastating for us. There's nothing we can do. Do you know how difficult that is for us to say? There's nothing we can do. Here's a bag of hygiene. You know, you want some shampoo and conditioner. I'm sorry, your family can't come.
If President Trump were sitting in your office, what would you say to him?
I would say this is un-American. This isn't who we are. These are people who, many of them fought alongside of our U.S. military in Afghanistan. Many waited in refugee camps for 21 to 25 years to have their chance for a better life for their children. They want to be here.
Larson's wish for her fellow Americans is to attend a citizenship ceremony to learn what she has learned.
For me, it's the most patriotic and American thing that I've ever experienced. And I've been to several of them, and I cry every time like a baby as I'm singing I'm proud to be an American, alongside my dear friends who have come from other countries, who know what it feels like.
Bram Resnick for NBC News Now.
Bram from our Phoenix affiliate, thank you so much for that. All right, on the bright side, a baby girl is being called more than a miracle. Meadow is finally out of the hospital and home with her family after a rough start in her little life. She was less than a pound when she was born. Her mother calls her a magic baby. Jody Hernandez from the NBC Bay Area has her incredible story.
What do you think? What are you doing?
Meet baby Meadow,
a Contra Costa County newborn who has defied the odds.
Even saying a miracle seems like downplayed. Like she's more than a miracle, and I don't really know the word for it yet, but it's kind of like magic. Like she's just a magic baby.
Weighing just 350 grams, less than a pound at birth, baby Meadow is the smallest surviving baby ever born at John Muir Health in Walnut Creek. She was so tiny, her outer layer of skin hadn't yet developed, so she was a different color, and her eyes were fused closed.
It was almost like seeing like a kitten, because kittens are born with their eyes closed. So I kind of call her my little kitten.
Mom Noelle says her baby had a condition that prevented her from getting the nutrients she needed while in the womb. The baby was so small, Noelle says she was told by doctors at other medical facilities she had no chance at survival.
Even though she was so small, I felt her kick and move, and I just knew she didn't make it this far along for it just to be over.
You're gonna conquer the world. That's when Mom turned to doctors at John Muir Health, who said they had the technology and expertise to give the baby a fighting chance.
It was a miracle and shows what is now possible for us, redefining what we can do.
Today, after 167 days, Mom got the green light to take Meadow home. The staff that's cared for her all these weeks lined up to celebrate and say goodbye to their tiniest patient ever.
She wouldn't be alive without them, so yeah. Just like thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Her mom says she has lots of plans for her little girl, who until now hasn't ventured outside.
I plan on taking her camping as one of our first things we do.
Meadow has a future in front of her befitting of her name.
Oh, beautiful story. Our thanks to Jody Hernandez for that story. We're grateful you joined us today. NBC News Daily picks up after a very quick break.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.